Yeah.
So good evening, everyone, to Date with the Designer. And we have with us Chitrak and Sanchita. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining us today for this lovely session.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
so
having us here.
a little bit about Sanchita. She's a writer and communication designer and the creative director and co-founder at Panch and Clan. And she has over 8 years of experience in the design field with expertise in children's education, game design, and storytelling. And a little bit about Chitrak. So he's an entertainment designer, an art director, and co-founder at Panchan Clan. 7 years plus experience with multidisciplinary knowledge from entertainment, UX, UI, graphics, and product design. A very warm welcome to both of you. And Dean sir, anything that you would like to say?
Welcome, Chitrak and Sanchita, to this small forum that we have called Date with the Designer. The students, all the students of Sushant, School of Design, Sushant University, always eagerly look out to meet people who they could call their seniors, because you are not as old as me, where I'm like the father, but you are like the seniors. And it is always very important for the younger generation to know what their immediate senior generation is actually doing. That's the intent behind this forum. So we usually invite people such as yourselves who are on the upward curve of life and profession, and who are not reached the peak yet, but who are on the way up, and to be inspiring our young people, to tell them what life is all about, what your journey's been, and answer questions, whatever they may have, and prove to be the inspiration that they all look out for. So that is really the reason why we are here together. And just for everybody's benefit, I've known Chitrak for a while, and he's been one of my students as well. And what I do remember about him is that he's very passionate about what he does in his work, and that is something that has always registered in the back of my mind when I think of Chitra. And I've thought about him many times for various things. This is probably the time that I've actually managed to engage him in something which we are commonly knowing. I remember his sketching abilities, his the way he used to visualize and draw things, and um, imagine things. So this is really amazing that he's here. I'm quite sure that he will be sharing some of the work as well. Sanchita, again, I've not interacted with you personally, but I know that you guys are both working together and doing some amazing stuff. So without much delay, I welcome you again to this forum, and look forward to hearing from you both.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much, sir. Yeah,
Thank you,
it's a
Shashi.
delight. Yeah.
Thank you, Shashi sir. And Chitrak and Sanchita, now it is all yours, and you can let us know about all your work and the two of you. It's
All
over
right.
Thank
to you.
you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Thank
Ned.
you.
So I think what we would like to do is like just give you guys an idea of what Panchan Clan, the studio that we have, what we do, and then give a brief introduction about ourselves, as well as how we reached where we are. Like give you guys an idea about our journey, and show you guys a couple of work, like some of our projects that we've done over the time, like last few years. And yeah, so let's begin that. I'll just share my I'll give you guys a presentation here. All right. Is my screen visible, guys?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
All right. All right. So as we, have been talking about like forever, like the kind of things that we do is essentially concept art, game design, and storytelling. These are the three domains that we explore our studio in. And like, let just give you guys an idea. We do like visual development. We design cars for entertainment purposes. We design like vehicles, architecture, creatures, characters, anything like set designs. That is what comes under concept art, the things that we do. And then we do a lot of storytelling. We write books, poems, work with clients like Sesame, and just create a bunch of different storybooks. So yeah, that's that entire domain is storytelling. And lastly, like a bunch of different kind of games, whether it's board games, whether it's digital games, card games, game craft kits for children. Are These are the things that falls under the category of game design. So these are the three essentially domains that we have worked over the past few years. And we like there are like a bunch of other stuff that we do as well as a studio. Some we do branding, but let me actually get to that in a little bit time. So me and Sanchita, like we'll just give you guys a like a brief background. I'll begin first. So I started as a product designer, and Sasi sir, as he mentioned, that I was in IILM School of Design, not far from where you guys are in Sushant. And I did my product design from there. I graduated as a product designer, and somehow I felt that that wasn't something that I wanted to do. I was always passionate about like drawing, sketching, and to me, like it was about expressing different ideas, and it might not necessarily be just product design. So I explored quite a bit, and immediately after like I graduated, I started working in a publishing house called DK, and I was lucky enough to work there in a department called the licensing department, where we used to work for Marvel, Disney, Star Wars, Lego, DC, like all these like really great licenses. And we used to make encyclopedias, sticker books, like readers, like these kind of books for them. And so like I was really excited to be working there, but soon I realized that I didn't want to make books about these things, and I wanted to make the things that these guys were making, right? Like these IPs, these intellectual properties. So I flew off to Singapore for a year, and there was a school called SoD School of Design, and they had an entertainment design program there. So it was a 1-year course. I came I slaved over my work there, and came back and worked. Somehow got into education sector, and we were trying to make. I was working with a company called Exceed, and we were trying to make this gaming platform, like a cloud-based education program, where there was a lot of games, there was a lot of animation for children, and there was a lot of education for them. So soon after, I was working there for built a couple of digital products there. And soon after, like Sanchita and I had been like friends for a very long time since school. And she had so we started working there in a company called SpyQ. And together we worked there, and I think I'll let Sanchita take over from here to share her story and continue my story as well. Yeah, Sanchita, over to you.
Okay, so I studied graphic design, and I was at Pearl Academy for a year. I did my foundation, and when I had started in the field of design, I had no idea about various fields of design. So the first thing that I thought that I could do was fashion, and then I started getting exposed to all the fields, and I realized that I had very little interest in fashion design as something that I'd like to do, and communication design really stood out to me. So at that point, it was too late for me to switch. So I ended up leaving Pearl Academy. I joined this institute called National Institute of Advertising, where I had this wonderful faculty, graduates from NID and people who were doing wonderful work in the industry. And it was a very small institute, but it was all the exposure that really, launched me into my love for this field. And uh, just after I had graduated, I also studied English honors. So just after I graduated, I happened to get a project with this company called Sesame Workshop India, which is the Indian branch of Sesame Street, which is a world famous early childhood education brand. They have an Indian branch called Gully Gully Sim Sim. And I started off on small projects, and it kind of stretched out to a 3-4 year long engagement where I was working as a design consultant for them. And every time they would try to get me on full time, I would ask for a position that would allow me not just to design but write as well, because I had an interest in writing as well. So they didn't have a position like that, so that conversation would get stuck there. So I ended up remaining a consultant. But at the very end of my engagement with them, I finally got a chance to write and illustrate my first storybook. And it was this really interesting project, which was funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. It was to teach. It was an intervention that was happening in this small basti in Calcutta called Tangra Basti, where children were being encouraged to, practice healthy sanitation practices. So, I came up with this story around Sabun Sipahi, Chappal Chacha Chachi, and from there, this love affair began with storytelling, which I wanted to continue that. So I kept pushing for design and writing wherever I went. Right after that role, I went into a game design for kids. So this new dimension got added. I worked at any point of time in my career, I always look for what is the next thing that I can grow in. So after growing in a little bit of writing and design, when I got into game design, that's where I started to focus on illustration, so packaging for game kits, and also learning about game design and how do you structure, how do you bring in learning concepts and make them fun for kids. So then my profile slowly began to kind of specialize in early childhood education as well. From there, I went into this company called Wonderbox that used to make subscription kits for children. And then I landed up in this company where like he mentioned, SpyQ, they wanted to create a product from scratch. So that's where I kind of sort of pooled in everything that I had learned so far, and started to build this product for kids, which was to do with storytelling, game design, not early, we were working in the age group of 8 to 12, so learning concepts from that age group. And we needed somebody who was very good with illustration. And so I had met Chitrak when we were in our design entrance classes, and I had always thought that one day I'm going to work with this person. I'm going to find a way to work with him. So as soon as I thought, okay, we need someone who has his caliber, I poached him from his company, got him to join my company, and we started working together, and it was a lot of fun. But demonetization happened, and all the funders for that company backed out. And within, I think, 3 months of me poaching Chitrak, both of us were out of jobs. And I had, poached him, so I had the responsibility of having made him quit his quite stable job. And so at that point of time, we were both faced with this decision that should we go ahead and go our separate ways, find jobs. And that's when I got a call for a freelance project, and I said, why don't we both go and see if we can get this project and work on it together. And we overnight we decided that instead of going as two freelancers, it'll look more professional if we go as, let's say, a studio. And so this was an overnight decision where we came up with a name for our studio. We printed visiting cards, and we came up with created a very sad logo, if I can say so. And we went for that meeting, and we didn't get that project, but it launched off our journey into our studio, and that was 4 years ago. And I don't think we have regretted it even once, that we got this chance, because at the same time we also started teaching. So both of us began to teach, and that was something that would not have been possible for either of us, I think, if we would have had full-time jobs. And having the freedom to do the kind of work that we've been doing for the last 4 years, and alongside teach and interact with the next generation of designers, has been we've really enjoyed this journey so far. So let's now, I think we can share something about our work now.
Yeah. So one of the key things that had happened throughout finding our journey through Panchang Clan is we kept iterating about what is it that we want to do. So initially our goal was, okay, we do concept art, storytelling, and game design, but it did not, like, it restricted us into, like, there's so much stuff that you can do within that as well. So we wanted to understand what is it that we want to get into. So after a lot of iteration, we actually came across this book by Simon Sinek, if which is starting with why, and it makes you question why is it you're doing something. And through a lot of thinking, we came across that the kind of things that we like to do and the things that we want to keep doing is related to magic, joy, and design. So that's why we approach now, like, all the projects, whether it is like concept art, storytelling, game design, or it can be any other project that we pick up. It has to relate to these three terms, and that is why, like, that it is such an important part of this like journey for us. So let us just quickly discuss a couple of projects with you guys, and yeah. So Sanchita, are you there? All right, so I think Sanchita might have been stuck a little. So let me just come here and discuss this project. Meanwhile, when Sanchita comes back, we can get back to the other project. So this is like an animated series that we had worked on. It's like the idea of this was that there was these like a bunch of characters who are all inspired by weeds, like little tiny weeds, plant weeds and stuff. And they lived in a small place, a small location where they all had individual houses, and they had to fight these, they had to find their fight their daily challenges of being involved with, people who are trying to constantly kill the weeds. So, we designed this entire process, like we envisioned the entire landscape, the characters, each person's house. So let me just take you guys through like some of them. So this little girl here is chickweed. She's inspired by this plant called chickweed, of course, and she's the person. So we, this is the kind of iteration that we do initially, like a bunch of character designs, iterations, and then we have like a final design for this entire character. Similarly, now, like when we have the character, we also have to design where does this person live. like what does her house look like, what are the things that would be very unique to her. So then we, based on a character, we would essentially design the house. So Chickweed here is supposed to be a musical enthusiast. So she's a musician, and she likes to listen to music and all that stuff. So we so a lot of work, like things, the house was inspired by the flower itself, chickweed, and like a lot of musical instruments, a lot of we did some ideas about what would her like musical instruments look like, what are the like the kind of clothing she would wear, like what is the kind of furniture that she would have in the house. And once we do that, then we do a final piece of which is a painting. And this usually goes to animators and production houses, so that they can actually physically build this in 3 dimensions, 3D, and then they can animate everything. But like for them to be able to do that, this piece of concept art is something that they need to develop that. So yeah, so similarly, there's another character. This is Foxglove, and you can see the kind of like variations we had with this character, and this happened over a course of time. Initially, he was supposed to be this really old wizard, Foxglove, but then as the show progressed, as iterations became more and more involved, we ended up with creating like a more younger version of the character. So all again inspired by the flower Foxglove. And same again, we had this guy here is the final design of this character. And yeah, again, we had to design the house. Where does he live? So foxgloves actually sometimes grow out of trees, and we thought this could be an interesting idea for his house, like trunk of house. And there's like a lot of books, like he's a wizard, so like a lot of like a huge library, tons of books, and he's supposed to be messy, so there's like books scattered all over the place. And again, a final painting to give the color information. What does the environment look like, what does the mood, and yeah, so that's how we designed the house. And so there was like a bunch of different characters: Dandy, Catnip, Teasel, Bramble, all inspired by of course different weeds. And again, like different houses for them. So this is Dandy's house. He's a child, so he has like a bunch of like toys, etc. Like this is Catnip. He's he's this recycler guy in the story, so he recycles human trash. So there's a bunch of trash, like tiny, like huge pieces of trashes around. And then this is Bramble's tower, where she looks up for anything that is going to endanger these guys, entire place. So she keeps an eye on that. And then we have like Teasel's little like den. So we actually got inspired by how like different animals have nests and burrows, and this is how we made her design, the house designed for that. So Sanchita, while you're here, why don't you talk about NutriDave as well?
Yeah, sure. I think I got logged out in between. Yeah. Thankfully, I'm back. Okay, so this was, I think, a project that we did. So like we, described that we work in game design, concept art, and storytelling. But that can, manifest itself in any form. So it can also be in the form of packaging design, where we kind of get to use whatever we bring to the table. So we bring to the table illustration skills, we bring to the table storytelling. So we helped this brand, which was at zero in terms of what they wanted for themselves. We help them kind of craft a story for their brand and then tell it through their packaging and the design. So their concept was healthy snacking, and it was a brand that was facing Canada. So they wanted to utilize this kind of um, feel that comes with Indian products, which are valued. Like, if let's say there's turmeric, so turmeric is an ingredient, as an ingredient, is a valuable ingredient that comes from India. So there's that, value for that. What we did was we picked up the idea of, let's say that we each type of product could have a god assigned to it. So there is this overarching god, which was the name of the brand, which is Nutri-Dev, and Nutri-Dev has then blessed all these individuals with the ability to provide. So there is Makhana Devi; she has been gifted with the ability to provide makhana and all the blessings in that form. Then there's Jawar Guru, who's been blessed with the ability to provide things related to Jawar. So from there, that and then we created this. We also wanted to include the creators of the brand in the story. So they are chartered accountants, but we made them into archaeologists. And as part of the brand story, so we came up with the story that they were archaeologists who dug out all these secrets from around the world, and they found these digs where they found evidence of their recipes and all the and their life and their practices to keep them young and healthy, so the key being healthy snacking. So then from there we started creating the branding, where we for the packaging, that was the first thing that needed to be created. The packaging had to be done. So here we presented. We always say that at least have 3 iterations or variations or options whenever you present to a client. So here we had 4 ideas which we presented, and the client chose one. We took that forward, and slowly things that were working, things that were not working, initially what you're seeing right now is a more evolved version, but in between it was getting too crowded, so we removed certain things, and slowly the whole the design came together, and I think then once we had all the flavors in place, then we went on to the second product, which was Jawar Guru's uh, sorghum puffs. And here again, we presented 2 sketches. One of them was chosen. We took that to the final.
Yeah. Yeah. So these are just like a couple of projects that we thought we would like to share, because this brings us for us, it connects to the things that we talk about, which is magic and joy and storytelling. Like storytelling in both of these plays such an important role of, and whether we do concept art or game design or storytelling, like the end result for us could be anything. So yeah, there's like, you guys can just to quickly show you guys that you can go through our website as well, which is panchanclan.com. We have a bunch of different projects. Some it's like a lot of character design, some game design, some books, illustrations, etc. Just to explore what is it exactly in depth that we do.
Our Instagram page is, however, more updated, which is panchanclan.design. So you can follow us there, because we haven't updated our website in some time.
So yeah, thank you so much. Like that is the end of our presentation here.
Thank you so much, Chitrak and Sanchita. It was a great presentation. And personally, I've always been very interested in these characters and how they're developed. So, if you could just brief us about how you do the character analysis of each character and what all goes into building each and every character. And does it also happen sometimes that, you're randomly sketching and you come up with the character, and once you made the character, then you go a step backward and design the characteristics and define the character? Has it ever happened like that, or it's always been the other way around?
Can I share? I think since there are two parts to this process. One is where we write the character essentially, where we kind of figure out what do we want to say through this character. So we come up with characteristics that we would associate. So there is kind of a storytelling aspect that happens where we describe, okay, this character is maybe funny or goofy, or this character is cute, or this character is scared, easily gets scared. So once we kind of decide those things, then that's where let's say that's where then Chitrak's expertise would come in, where he would then step in and try to visually uh, create that feeling, that how does this character look like he's scared, or or she enjoys wonder. Or Chitrak, if you could.
Yeah, so like a lot of, like once you actually let's say you like a character, like Sanchita mentioned that a character is joyful, right? So you kind of understand what are the shapes, design elements that are associated with those terms, right? So for joy, it could be yellow, color yellow, could be the shape circle, right? It could be the curved lines. Like these are the things that you would essentially find, right? You could also find like inspiration for like for example, like if you're designing a character based on animals, right? You can find an animal that brings you joy, right? That could be a dog, like really cute, like, or excitable dog, or a bunny, right? Those are the things that you would maybe associate with joy, and then design the characters based on extracting the visual features of that those particular things. But it's also like when we're right, I think it comes back from the story a lot, because what is the overall story and what does the character has to, what is the role of the character that has to be played by that character. And when you're designing the character, it's easy to design it in isolation, but you sometimes always also have to take care of what is its relationship with other characters. So if a character is they have to be all each and individually be iconic, without making them too like everyone absolutely too unique. So you have to play by how like let's say there's a so there's something called silhouettes, right? So silhouette is like a overall shape. So if a character is like one character is strong and you want to show that the other character is weak, then you would play by that one thing you can do is like play by the sizes of those two characters in relation to with each other, in contrast to one another. Or it could be the color of their costumes, or the shape language. Like triangle is the opposite, almost not opposite, but like very contrasting to circles. So those are the things that you could actually use to design the character itself.
Thank you so much. There's a question which our student wants to know. She asks, she's Malika Mishra. She wants to know that what were the few things you wish you knew before you started?
Okay. So this is actually a very broad thing, and I wish like I knew so many things that before I started.
I think one thing I wish I had known before I started was that kind of actually learn what needs to be done when you're on the job. I mean, I really appreciate the education that I received, but when I actually went into the industry, I realized that I knew nothing. So really had to that wherever you go, you get exposure, and your job really teaches you what are the printing techniques that work, what actually goes into taking a design from start to finish. Because in college you still have that bubble around you where you've not really gone. You don't have to care about budgets. You don't have to care about what is it going to cost, and you don't have to always see everything to the finish point and see it out in the market. So a lot of things are question marks at that point of time, which eventually then you find out when you start working.
The other side of the thing is, like, especially when we started doing business, they were like, we had no understanding of business, right? So we had to, like, understanding how to write contracts was a big deal. Like, doing accounting was a big deal. Doing taxes was a big deal, because now we're like more responsible for us as a company. So those like a lot of administration, a lot of time management, like these things which we don't really think about a lot. And these things really come into play more, doing business development, like building client relationships. Like our job, actually, I would say, like at least 60% is not about design, and just managing design. And yeah, like that other 40% is maybe just design.
I think that is something no designer is used to, and they're suddenly thrown into the pool and asked to do everything around for them. So, Nitya Manchanda asks that how do you study a brand before you start working, and how do you go about the research?
That's a really good one, because I think research is again one thing that we kind of took for granted and didn't really focus on when we were studying. And now over on the period of our career, I think Chitrak and I both keep saying wherever we are taking workshops, research is really, really valuable. So I think one of the things that we try to do is every client is see, when we're talking about, let's say, communication design, so essentially what everything comes down to, whether it's storytelling, whether it's game design, whether it's concept art, we're helping our client to communicate what they want to put out there. And it can be through packaging, it can be through a character, it can be through a story, it can be through any form of design. And getting what we know is that the client is the expert in what he or she wants, and we are the expert in design. So what we're essentially trying to do is trying to get on the same page as the client, trying to understand what is essential to them, what do they value, what do they see is their 5-year vision. Let's say if you're talking about branding and strategy, the first thing that we want to ask them is that, where do you see your brand going? What is it? A premium brand? Is it affordable by the lower end of the public, or are you hoping to expand, or is your product range going to be very niche? What is the overall vision? So all of these things, once we start having that kind of conversation, the client may or may not actually have thought about it, but we end up together finding those things, and we end up understanding what the client wants to say. That's I think one of the key things that we focus on when it comes to research, really understanding what the client really wants to communicate. And then to kind of bridge the things that we don't know, which is let's say one of our clients was somebody who had a cow farm, an organic brand, not a cow farm, but they had an organic brand, and they were selling A2 milk, they were selling ghee, all of those. So we didn't know how ghee is made. We didn't know how they take the honey and then bring it to the consumer. So then that the next part of the research comes in, where we sit and actually hear from the client that this lady, she's sitting in a village and she's grinding this ingredient into this, and then we go through that entire process, and then we figure out what is the best way that we can show this. Is it through an illustration? Is it through a small story that we can write? And then we kind of bring everything together and put that out in whatever form is required.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for a lovely answer, Sanchita. One thing that I really want to know is the packaging design that you showed us in your presentation, the nutritional snacking one.
Right.
So it had such a strong story and a strong background behind that, and you guys had put in a lot of effort in creating that character, building a strong story. But a packaging design is on the shelves and it's just picked up by the customer. And every customer, every client will have a very different perception of that packaging and that character that you've created. So, how do you think as designers we can make sure that that is the only perception or our story is coming across clearly just by that packaging design? Because unfortunately, we can't have a story behind the packaging. So, it is just an interpretation and a perception. So, how do you think we can cross that battle?
So I think one of the things is, of course, that no matter what you make, everybody is going to create their own story when they come across it. So that is not a bad thing, I think. But to answer your question, that how do we kind of try to at least communicate in a way that the consumer gets what we initially what we visualized, is I think the key lies in utilizing things that we inherently as a world kind of associate with certain things. So we know that red color will inherently we associate with passion, with love, with lust, with uh, Valentine's Day. So we know those, or that a jagged line would be more edgy than, let's say, a curved line. So those things, once we start to understand that overall everybody will probably or the majority of the population has certain associations that we've kind of grown up with. And when we start to utilize those things in our communication, then we have the highest chance of being able to come to the same page in terms of the story that we are trying to communicate and the story that they interpret. I think that is the best answer that I can think of to this question.
I think adding to Sanchita's like answer, I would also say that like back in when we studied, we took the foundation year as a like a very for granted thing, right? But like I feel that one of the most important things that you actually go through as like in your career is going back to your foundation year, the things that you learn in your foundation year, because like everything else is like really important, but yeah, like the core, it is called foundation for a reason. So like if you're stuck with something, you can always go back to principles and elements of design, the color theory, design process. These are all things that you learn in the foundation course, and no matter what field you are, this is where the design actually, the core of design actually comes from.
Thank you. One last question. Nitya Manjanda asks, do you have any internship program for freshers?
We actually don't have, like, this year we do not have any internship programs. We did have like last year and the year before, but unfortunately this year we do not have an internship program. But yeah, maybe next year now.
All right. Thank you so much, Sanchita and Sanchita
I
and
I
Chinmay. It was a lot.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So my question is that this is going back to a part of the discussion earlier part of the discussion, where they mentioned about managing the design process, right? Then managing the design firm, sorry, and that managing the design firm, which involves a lot of other things other than design. So you said 60% of what you do is probably not design. So is there a potential for collaborating with others who are actually those guys who actually do that 60%, and so that you can focus your 100% on your work? Because there was a time when we had to do everything. Now this is the era of collaboration, finding the right partner to actually figure something out and associate and do things together. Have you explored that?
So I think one of the things that we have evolved as a studio is that we realized where our strengths lie as individuals, and we haven't really expanded our studio beyond the two of us, but we've kind of figured out which roles we play best in terms of these administrative roles, let's say. And we've also come to realize that we do not want to do, just the for the lack of a better word, the labor work for the rest of our lives. These we also really enjoy these other, things that come with being a studio, which is the managing the clients or figuring out how the project is going to go. So we play to our strengths, and we've kind of took us a while though to realize, who would be best to handle this or that, and now we have this seamless kind of relationship where if it's, let's say, business development, so we know, okay, you handle this or you handle this, or if we have to talk to a certain client, Chitrak might be more ideal in terms of how he handles that client. So we now know those things.
It also, like in our case, I think specifically it also helps that we've been friends for a very long time, so we know kind of like the kind of personalities that both of us have, and and we are able to make that work as a, like, in also the factor of trust is also very like big in our in the kind of association that we have. So then like as a studio, it becomes like it works for us in that manner as a collaboration. So for us, like, this is a great collaboration because like technically the kind of personalities we have are very different. So where one falls short, the other one is able to like play the other role very strongly. So yeah, that is like definitely, if someone is like just doing like a solo work, then you do need someone to fill in those spaces where you are not like your strongest.
So in terms of collaboration, if you're asking us, we both of us partnered up. So we kind of we have if we were doing this alone, I think we would have had much more of a struggle if we would have had to go this way alone.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, in fact, like sometimes even if like one in the way we approach projects, even if one person has more work than the other, like then the other person is able to help the other person manage the project. So it's like, it's not whether that whether one guy's alone doing the one project or not. Like there's always need for a second project to help manage the entire thing as well. So there's like a lot of aspects, and I think that it definitely works better when you are able to work with other people, and not alone.
Yes.
One of our faculty members, Ms. Tapasya Samar, has a question. She says, how does a young team like you gain or approach new clients and gigs? Perhaps your instinct may encourage some of the listeners to jump into the industry with a plan.
Mhm. Okay, so I think like some of the things, like we can share our like how we approach this. And as we mentioned, like we started from like literally like just one day of making portfolio, and we built a portfolio in one day. We built a logo in like our company in one day, and then we just like head in, right? And I feel, looking back, I don't feel that like, even though the project that we were trying to get at that point that we did not get, like I would not change that approach in any case, right? Because sometimes you just have to take the next step and not worry about going with all the plans, right? The sometimes you can plan a certain amount, but I think going in with too much plan is just delaying the process. So like if you just take the next step, okay, you want to build a portfolio, you want to have a website, you want to have your branding done, just do it one by one at whatever level that you can do at that point, and just send it out there. Like we did a lot of we approached a lot of people that we already knew, and we also did a lot of cold calls, cold emailing to possible people that we might be able to associate with. And that actually got a really good response for us, like cold emailing. In fact, like one of the clients, like major clients that we have right now, we sent out an email, and literally 15 minutes afterwards they replied and said, we really, can we have a meeting tomorrow? And that's like, that's how like powerful cold emailing can be. Of course, like you will have to have like some, like your work needs to show as well. Like it can't be that you don't have any work to show. But yeah, so you do need to be able to impress the person on in maybe in a matter of seconds. Sanchita, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I was wanting to add what you said ekdam last May is that the portfolio has to be presentable, because uh, at the end of the day, no matter where you study from, no matter where you're coming from, the portfolio is all that matters. And what what is, I think one of the things that we kind of see, we struggled as when we were studying, and we see our students struggling with, is that they kind of get into this frame of mind that this subject, I'm not enjoying this subject, or I don't want to work on this project. Try to what we would ideally say is that try to get out of that and try to create a vision for what you want your portfolio to look like at the end of your study, and just try to use each and every project to build that in to your portfolio, because the portfolio is the thing that gets to the client and gets you that call back, gets you that email response. So that is definitely something that we really believe in, having a vision board. So just what we do is we go to Pinterest, we pin the kind of work that we want to do, the kind of clients that we want to have, everything that we want, we create a vision for that and then try to get to it. That's what has worked for us.
Great. Thank you so much. One more question from our professor Harminder Singh. After the prototyping, do you get involved in production and cost of production also?
It does depend on the kind of project. Like for example, like if it's a packaging project, then those are things that you do have to consider at like you can like let it be. If it's not something that you have to really get into, you don't necessarily always have to get into cost of production, because like printing cost is something that it's like can be very standard, right? But there are also like different kinds of printing. There are different kinds of materials in printing, whether it's like glossy printing, matte printing, and then there's like all these like gold leaf printing and all that, like very fancy stuff, right? So now like you have to understand, like sometimes we understand what is the budget of the client and approach the design from that point of view. So we do like talk to the person who would be like producing the packaging, for example, and then essentially basing our design based on that as well. But yeah, it's like a very organic thing. Like I can't say that we're always involved in that process.
So I would like to share, my experience from working in the subscription kit industry, which had gone through a boom, I think 3-4 years back. So that time I was working with this company called Wonderbox, where there were subscription kits for kids. So every month you could subscribe and you would get these activities in a box. So at that point of time, no matter which part of design we were involved in, we all of us used to have this meeting at the beginning of the month, where the person who sources the material, who makes the products, who makes the books, the storybooks, all of us would come together. We would pull in all our ideas as to what has to go into the box, and then the guy who used to source the material, he would be the guy who would veto. He would say this material is going to be more than this much, and then so that like Chitrak said, it's organic, and it ends up being a part of the conversation, whether or not we are personally going and talking to the person who's going to print or produce or source the material, we end up getting involved in it directly or indirectly because it has to be part of our process.
Like, and everyone has a budget, so like you have to have like some consideration for the budget. No one, like, they can move from, like, maybe if there's something that costs 1 lakh, right, they might be able to move from 1 lakh to 1,10,000 or 1,20,000 max, right? Or they'd be very happy if it's less. But yeah, like 19-20 ka, like, there can be a thing, but it can never be like too big a difference in terms of what you're making and what their budget is.
Thank you so much, Chitrak and Sanchita. And anything that you would like to end the session with?
No, I would just like to thank you, Nain, and thank you, Sasi sir, for having us here on this like event, and it's like an absolute delight to interact with you all. Especially like talking to Sasi sir after so long has been like a real pleasure for me personally, and thank you so much again.
So I hope we. I would also like to thank you both for taking the time out and being here. And I hope you will visit us sometime. And we find an opportunity actually to get you here on campus so that the students can actually directly interact with you guys also. So whenever situations are a little different and we are able to get you here, I look forward to having you over and impressing everybody with some of your skills and showing what it means to be a creative personality. So, so thank you once again for coming on here, and thank you, Sanchita, very much.
Thank
Hope
you.
to
It
see
was
you
really
too.
nice to meet you. Meet you.
Yes. Thank
Okay.
you once again, and we
Okay.
really hope to having you on campus.
Yeah, absolutely. We would love to.
We're looking forward to that.
Great. Have a great evening.
You too.
You as well. Thank you,
Yeah.
everyone.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you. Bye bye.